Coming up on NCC News,
a beloved Syracuse star has died.
The primary results are in, but they may not be final for the Democratic candidates. NCC reporter Hearns Laguerre has the full story.
And this is Maddie Stussman reporting live from Berry Park, where the weather is absolutely gorgeous outside.
Good afternoon and welcome to NCC News Live at 4. I'm Maddie Oleskevich.
And I'm Paola Sudo. Let's get right to our top story.
We start with some sad news. Former Syracuse University basketball player Dwayne Pearl Washington passed away this morning at the age of 52.
Washington had been diagnosed with a brain tumor last summer. Now this morning, Jim Boeheim paid tribute to the legendary basketball star.
The only player that I've ever kind of watched during a game instead of watching what I'm supposed to be watching.
Coach, what kind of coaching did it take? Former Syracuse basketball players have also been expressing their thoughts online this morning, writing about memories they had with Washington.
These memories included his buzzer-beating half-court shot his freshman year against Boston College.
To the people that know me the best, the people of New York, when they give us this kind of a vote, and it's just incredible.
In this campaign, we've won in every region of the country.
The race to victory in New York these past 2 weeks has been heating up and the results are in. Frontrunners Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump won over the state of New York in yesterday's primary elections. Onondaga County had the most voters in the New York presidential primary election than in any other presidential primary in the past 16 years. In Onondaga County, more than 70,300 voters, consisting of 39% active Democrats and 39% of active Republicans, were present.
New York election officials reported that yesterday's voter turnout was unusually high.
In addition to that, according to Attorney General Eric Schneiderman, the voter complaint was 4 times higher than it was in 2012.
NCC's political expert Hearns Laguerre Jr. tells us how voters ran into difficulties at the polls.
New York isn't always a competitive state when it comes to the presidential primaries. However, yesterday was a high turnout, met obstacles due to voters' confusion about New York registration rules. New York voters had to stay alert for important dates for the primaries. March 25th was the mail registration deadline. March 30th was the deadline for a change in address. By October 9th was the deadline for party affiliation change, which was 193 days before the primaries. This led to difficulties in local polling places such as Edward Smith Elementary, where voters had to go to different places or couldn't vote at all.
I couldn't vote. And the reason why I couldn't vote is because I was independent.
And they said that my name wasn't in the books, but I actually showed them this card, and they said that I have to call the Board of Elections to get a affidavit in order to vote.
This problem appeared in other places, such as Byrd Library on the Syracuse University campus.
So actually, I came and they said I wasn't even registered, but I double-checked and I was, so I had to fill out this affidavit. But I was able to vote, so that was good.
Central New York wasn't alone with difficulties. In New York City, 125,000 Democratic voters were taken off of the voting rolls in Brooklyn. Many people, such as Brooklyn native Bernie Sanders, were upset.
I remain also concerned that in a state as large as New York, almost 30% of the eligible voters, some 3 million New Yorkers, were unable to vote today.
Thank you so much, Hearns.
He had already started climbing out of the plane, and there were 2 of them on the ground when I got there, and the one that I tended to was actually on fire. His clothing, what was left of his clothing, was still burning, and he was trying to roll, and he was actually rolling in dry grass, which was catching on fire.
According to authorities, 3 people injured in a plane crash have been identified. The plane took off Monday evening in Westmoreland and crashed shortly after on Lowell Road. Oneida County Sheriff's Office identified the victims as Amanda Odell, John Balow, and James Kaspersky. Balow and Kaspersky still remain in critical condition, according to the Sheriff's Office. The reason behind the crash is still under investigation.
The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation announced they are awarding $1.8 million in grants for 55 nonprofits across the state. They are giving these grants in the hope of protecting New York's natural resources and wildlife reserves. The grants announced range from $80,000 to $2,750.
A 19-year-old Oneida man is facing felony drug-related charges following a joint narcotics investigation. According to police, Sean Thurston was selling drugs within 1,000 feet of a school. Thurston was charged on April 15th and brought to the Madison County Jail on $25,000 cash or $50,000 bail bond. Additional charges are pending.
Syracuse head coach Dino Babers held a meeting with players Tuesday morning to discuss safety measures after 2 players were stabbed on Saturday. Nashawn Howard, a former Orange defense back, was arrested for assaulting 2 players with a pocket knife on SU's South Campus. According to Syracuse.com, during the meeting, Babers told the players not to wear any SU gear in public places to stay safe. Babers, however, denied ever saying that Wednesday morning and added that he told the players to wear their uniforms loud and proud, but to have common sense with the things they do in life.
The Department of Environmental Conservation has issued red flag fire warnings today. These warnings have been issued in several parts of New York State due to dry conditions and rising temperatures. According to the DEC, residential brush burning is prohibited through May 14th to prevent wildfires. Violators are subject to both criminal and civil offenses with a minimum fine of $500.
Now let's go to weather correspondent Maddie Stessman live from Berry Park for an NCC News weather update. Maddie?
Thank you, Paula. Well, I wish you both were out here with me now. It's absolutely gorgeous. People are walking and running and playing out here. If we look at our current temperatures, it's in the low 60s. No precipitation, as you can see. A light wind, but it's feeling really great. And if we look at the history for April 20th, it is not that 90 degrees that we've seen in the past or that 20. We're actually hitting about the average temperature, which has been about 58, and we're here in the low 60s today. And let me tell you, it is beautiful. I wish you both were here to enjoy it. And you can catch my full weather forecast later on in the 4:45. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you so much, Maddie. And coming up on NCC News,
the Michigan Attorney General announces charges against 3 people connected to the Flint water crisis. Find out who after the break.
Another car company admits to fudging the numbers on vehicle testing. Find out if your car could be affected.
And Central New York loves their pets. Find out how the Liverpool Public Library is helping out our furry friends.
We'll be right back.
3 people are facing criminal charges in relation to the Flint water crisis this morning. The man who ran Flint's water treatment plant was charged with tampering with evidence and willful neglect. 2 state environmental officials were charged with misconduct, evidence tampering, and violations of the Safe Water Drinking Act. The appointed prosecutor said that the investigation will be thorough and details of the charges will be announced later today.
Ask the tough questions, those proverbial questions of what did you know and when did you know it?
Has approved a settlement between the U.S. Department of Justice and Ferguson, Missouri.
This is the same city where 18-year-old Michael Brown was fatally shot by an officer in 2014. Now, the settlement means the city will fast-track new law enforcement reforms. The new policies will cost the city around $2.3 million. New rules call for body cameras for officers and allowing people to be able to record police actions without fear of retaliation.
The city will also review demographics of traffic stops by officers. The city is being given 180 days to come up with a plan on how to diversify the police force.
And now a court case won in Virginia could have an impact that extends past the state's borders. Yesterday, a transgender student won his suit against the state for the right to use the boys' restroom at school.
Many in North Carolina are looking to this case to set a precedent in the fight back against the controversial HB 2 bill that forces North Carolina students to use the restroom according to their biological sex. Equality rights groups are saying that they are excited to see the impact the Virginia ruling has on the state of North Carolina in the coming months.
When you consider certain, I guess arguments or what have you, it doesn't really stand up to scrutiny. But I think a lot of it is just misinformation, and people haven't had a chance to really deal with transgender people in any meaningful way.
The Japanese-based auto manufacturer Mitsubishi is owning up to another scandal this morning. The company admits their employees falsified fuel mileage test data for a number of vehicles and then went on to advertise their great mileage to consumers. Mitsubishi president says this falsification was intentional by employees, but he is unsure as to why they resorted to fraud. The probe initially was brought up after Nissan pointed out inconsistencies in the reported mileage and performance of the vehicles.
And new tweets and emails give us a look at the darker side of the Mizzou protests. In the emails, students say they feared for their safety and stayed home from class. One social media post called for demonstrators to stop protesting and start killing white students.
Multiple protesters posted on social media using the hashtag #ConcernedStudent1950. According to graduate student Jonathan Butler, student protesters were motivated by anger and don't have a set plan until their demands are met.
Mizzou's enrollment rate took a big hit after the protest as well.
And Andrew Jackson will no longer be on the $20 bill. Harriet Tubman is going to replace the president on the face of the bill, according to a Treasury official. The new design will be made public in 2020 and will not reach circulation until the next decade. Meanwhile, Alexander Hamilton will remain on the face of the $10 bill. The death toll from Saturday's 7.8 magnitude earthquake in Ecuador rose above 500 on Wednesday.
According to the Ecuadorian Attorney General's office, at least 525 people are now known to have died.
The quake caused damage throughout the country, but especially along the coast. Hundreds of rescuers from many countries have traveled to Ecuador to help aid the damaged country.
And according to the United Nations Refugee Agency, as many as 500 migrants died when a large ship sank in the Mediterranean between Libya and Italy last week. They added on Tuesday that there were 41 survivors, including 37 men, 3 women, and a 3-year-old child. The survivors said they were part of a large group which was transferred to a larger boat. This one capsized and sank. The survivors include people who had not boarded the large vessel and others who were able to swim back to the smaller boat.
The Australian Transport Safety Bureau confirmed 2 pieces of debris almost certainly came from missing Malaysia Airlines Flight 370.
The first piece of plane debris was a flap-track fairing segment found in December. The second piece of debris was found exactly 2 months later, about 135 miles away.
The disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 still remains one of the world's biggest aviation mysteries after vanishing from radar in March of 2014. And still to come,
NCC reporter Maddie Stessman shows us how the Liverpool Public Library is helping your pets.
And Monday wrapped up the Liverpool Public Library's week-long pet supply drive to help Humane CNY.
Maddie Stessman has more on the success of the event.
In addition to pet supplies, Humane CNY is always accepting volunteers and donations.
Well, up next, women's basketball had a season for the ages. Find out how they pulled it off with sports reporter Jim O'Shea.
And another group of basketball players is going viral, and it's not for their moves on the court.
The Syracuse women's basketball team had a historic season, making the Final Four for the first time in program history. The road to Indianapolis was not an easy one, but that's exactly what this team loves.
Ultimate national championship. On a historic day in Sioux Falls, the Syracuse Orange are going to the Final Four for the first time.
Syracuse sure made it look easy in March. The Orange outscored its opponents by an average of 17 points per game in the NCAA tournament en route to the program's first ever national championship game. But it wasn't that easy and took years of hard work to finally pay off.
It's undescribable. It's something that we worked hard for all season, and even, with all these seniors, it's something that they worked hard for their 4 years building this program.
For Coach Quentin Hillsman, the journey to the top was even longer. SU gave him the head coaching job in 2006, and the Orange didn't win an NCAA tournament game until 2014.
Dr. Gross had a lot of faith in me, gave me a head coaching job at Syracuse when nobody would give me a BCS job, and Nancy Cantor's been so big, and they just gave me a chance. I just thought about them, thought about my family and our new administration. I'm just so happy for everybody and our team.
Like Hillsman, the team is used to playing the underdog role. The players thrive on the criticism instead of running away from it.
It's something that we earned. I think, we came in all these games. I think we've been on upset alert. Not a lot of people, were thinking that we were going to get there, except for the people in our locker room. And it's nice to actually be there and proving people wrong.
Nobody thought we would be here. Nobody thought we would win this. And we stuck together and we won in this fashion. I can't say enough.
For the team's 7 leading scorers will be gone next season, but the goal doesn't change.
That's what we shoot for every year. And
Star player Brittany Sykes announced last week that she will be returning next season for her 5th year. Syracuse will return to the hardwood in November with what you've got to expect to be high expectations. All of the full sports cast in the 4:45 show with a preview of the SU lacrosse game tonight and highlights of a crucial Game 3 at Madison Square Garden. Maddie and Paula, back to you.
And after the break, These men's basketball players are used to making waves on the court. Find out what they're doing to start a movement off it. Stick around. Today marks the opening day for Syracuse's weekly food truck rodeos. Some of the popular trucks participating this year include the Chicken Bandit, PB&J's Lunchbox, and Toss and Fire wood-fired pizza. The trucks are located at Lynn Court Plaza from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. and will run each Wednesday through October. As the season progresses, more trucks may join and move locations to other Cicero parks. And now for a look ahead to the 445, we go to Sarah Valenzuela.
Coming up at 4:45, we'll have more on the death of Dwayne Pearl Washington, the updates on a body found this morning in Syracuse's Armory Square, and the latest on the Flint water crisis. All that and more coming up next.
So college basketball players are used to making headlines for their moves, but this time it's not their moves on the court that's taking the nation by storm. An old dance was revived into a new viral movement started by some Maryland basketball players and is now all over social media with the hashtag Running Man Challenge. Check it out.
The song is an old classic, My Boo, by Ghost Town DJs. And it looks like everyone's having a great time.
I know, I'd like to be there. Well, that is all the time we have for today. I'm Paola Suro.
And I'm Maddie Olskevich. Have a great night, Syracuse.